You're listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Another episode of the Red Moon Podcast, live every single Tuesday night on all your favorite social media apps. Like, share, subscribe. We appreciate all the love out there in podcast land. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian,
and
Acorns in the Desert.
Acorns in the Desert. That sounds like a
Zelda or something.
Native American name.
Sounds like something you find in
Whispering Wind, Feather Widow.
Fedo.
Fedo.
What is
tried to
that?
say Feathered Widow, but
It's a sad name because
you wouldn't be a widow
don't
anyway.
grow in the desert. They just die.
A Fedo is a
Nothing
grows
grows
a
in
fat
the
man
desert.
that loves
Sad.
children.
That's not true. Cactuses grow in the desert. Boom.
Okay, boom, got me.
Boom.
Got me.
Cactuses drop acorns too.
They do. They drop acorns.
That's it. We're making that up right now. It's proven. It's a fact.
It is a fact.
Certifiable, scientific. Just like the movie we saw this weekend. We saw one part of Barbenheimer.
Yeah.
The
Heimer
huge box office smash hit of the double feature this past weekend. I mean, it's the first time since Endgame that they've seen numbers this large.
Yeah.
So that, of course, was pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
Of course, I mean, we're going to hear about the pandemic forever. They're just still haven't recovered.
Everything's compared to that now.
Everything now.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess it is. There's pre and post-pandemic, no
Yeah.
doubt. But it's like, yeah, and so much of the measures were like, you all took. Like, I mean, it's like they're just movies were halted. They didn't come
Yeah.
out. I mean,
Hell, we might be facing that again. So for a different reason.
Oh, well, yeah. The strike continues. No news there. It's just ongoing. But it is funny that Tenet came out right after everything was starting to open back up,
That's
and it was
right,
kind of
yeah.
the first launch of. It was supposed to be to get people back in the theaters, and it didn't do the trick.
It didn't work quite
No,
well.
but
We've had massive hits since then, though. They can't.
Yeah.
They can't act like solely like movies.
Well, that's what I love.
Yeah.
I love that the blame goes to still suffering from the pandemic, not suffering from just bad creative decisions.
Yeah.
Like the movies just suck. They're subpar from what we've gotten over the last. Because that's the thing. There were still bad movies back then, even in 2019.
Just not as many.
Just not as many. Well, and I mean, what other movie came out? I'd have to go back and look at our 2019 slate. I'm like, yeah, Endgame was like the cultural event that year, but I mean, there were still other movies that came out that probably didn't do well that were blockbusters.
Oh yeah,
You
I
know,
mean,
I'd have to go look at
there's always
the entire
been
slate.
been flops and good. It's just now that, and this is really
It's
the
an
first.
excuse.
It is an excuse, but also I'd like to point out that really they haven't been pitting movies against each other like they did in the past pre-pandemic either. This is the first time you've had two major releases really in the same weekend.
True.
And I mean, I remember back when we were growing up. Hell, I've been Pirates and Spider-Man 3, and all these movies came out at the same time, and it was great. You went and saw one, you went and saw the other one either the next weekend or during the week.
I guess you could argue though this year we've kind of had that.
A little bit.
I mean,
but
you had the Transformers come back for what was supposed to be on the heights of
Yeah.
Bumblebee. You had Indiana 5.
Oh, there's been a lot of
supposed to
major
be a
ones.
big franchise
But
come back.
they've
Mission
been
Impossible,
usually
Dead
week
Reckoning.
to week rather than two in the same week like Barbie and
Right.
Oppenheimer.
Right.
And that was one of Christopher Nolan's points. He's like, no, I'm glad they have competition because that helps drive people to the theater. And he's right. When you have more than one movie. Because the people who went and saw Oppenheimer opening weekend aren't the people who are interested in Barbie.
But
and the
no.
people who went and saw Barbie opening weekend
But
aren't the
here's-
people
but-
who are interested in
That's
Oppenheimer.
right.
But I was surprised because apparently there were over 200 and I think it was like 240,000 tickets that were sold for both.
Oh, yeah. No, there's
They
plenty of
literally
people that
did the
do
whole
both.
Barbenheimer weekend, and they made it an excursion to go see both this
I
past
used to
weekend.
do double features on my birthday every year. And I mean, if it was something I was more interested in and I had the time, I might have done both. But I feel like while that is a significant number, I still think the majority of people saw one or the other.
Well, just like us.
But yeah,
We chose
gonna
one
say,
over the
yeah,
other.
we chose.
I would have seen Oppenheimer, and then I probably would have just seen Sound of Freedom again. before seeing Barbie.
It's funny because you look at the box office numbers, and I was kind of surprised.
It came
You
in
had
number
Barbie
3.
at number 1, Oppenheimer at 2, Sound of Freedom was right there at 3, and then Dead Reckoning only a week out, and it's
Yeah.
already at 4.
Yeah.
Indiana's still at 5, but it's barely hanging on.
I think Mission Impossible might bounce back a little bit better now that, like, not that I think that Oppenheimer and Barbie are both just going to instantly die, but I do think they're a little bit more niche in the sense that you have your hardcore Nolan fans, you have the people like your fan base for Barbie, and in their week to week, I don't think see them maintaining where I could see Mission Impossible. It's got great reviews from both sides. The exit reviews are always really good.
It's still retained a lot of its overseas numbers, and it at least stayed steady there. I also think too, when it comes to Oppenheimer and Barbie, I agree. I think those were it was the event of the summer that we've been building up to. It was kind of just these two polar opposite films. I think that was what also generated a lot of the esteem.
The humor behind that,
I want to go
enjoyed.
see like this cerebral, historical biographic film versus, this obviously larger than life, based on an IP that, is obviously for women. I mean, I think they did say that 60% of the audiences who saw Barbie were female, no surprise, and 60% that saw Oppenheimer were male. So it made sense that it kind of culturally cut down the lines of the sexes.
Now, I do think it's impressive because I don't want to, like I said, those might drop off, but I don't want to understate how impressive it is that Sound of Freedom is still number 3.
Yeah.
Because that is still massive for it. It's not showing, like, it still has limited theaters. So the fact that it's still up there with a limited theater run shows how many people are still being drawn to it, how many people are giving it great word of mouth to drive other people
hit
in.
$125
Yeah,
billion.
and based on its budget, it's made the most money.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you look at it, its budget and the fact that it's limited theaters, it's actually pretty much doing better than these other movies.
Absolutely. But also we've got to talk about the fact that while we do have a review of Oppenheimer, I was going to spring something on you all, but we've kind of talked about it a little bit before the show, and I can now say live here on air, we were debating it, we were questioning it, we were going to do a live poll out there for people to tune in and give us their results. We were going to go by democracy rules. But the fact is tyranny rules now because I've decided we're going to review Barbie next week. So stay tuned. We're going to see the second half of Barbenheimer, which I guess technically would be the first half since it's
the Barb.
But we're going to review Barbie next week.
Yeah.
So stick around for that review coming next week. So that way we have the 2 huge movies of the summer, even though we reviewed them all, really. So far, we reviewed all the major releases.
I mean, there's nothing coming out next week that is, Disney's Haunted Mansion, but that's going to be...
We were not going to watch that.
No.
So,
well, I didn't watch the first one that came out 20
this
years
isn't
ago?
a sequel. It's a complete...
No, but that's I just find it funny that I'm like, we can't even make it 20 years without a remake now. And it was from Disney.
Well, I think because
that was Eddie Murphy. Yeah.
Well, but it has to be from Disney. It's their property. They own Haunted.
But my point is it's like they're already getting to the point of bottom of the barrel, like having to...
Well, their idea was they were trying to create more movies based on their rides, and because that one tanked, because that's what Jungle Cruise was. But that's what Tomorrowland was. Those are all based on their rides. But I wouldn't be surprised if they remake that since it didn't do well.
And this,
it's one of those things where
one's not going to do well.
No, I don't.
Especially
think so.
when you have. I mean, let's face it. I mean, we were just talking about Mission Impossible. Hopefully, maybe kind of inching back up there. I mean, part of the reason I do think it also got hit harder was because it got completely knocked out of IMAX.
Yeah.
Oppenheimer, at least in America, every single IMAX theater was showing Oppenheimer, and it has the stakes on it for like a month.
Yeah.
So the only premium way you could have seen Dead Reckoning, at least in the first month of its release, was the week it came out. So I do think it's interesting that it's like maybe other people are still going to go see it. They don't care about the premium format. But we also know that when it comes to box office numbers, your premium format gets you a higher ticket price. Therefore, it does mean overall more total.
Yeah.
I do wonder if maybe if they had picked a different month, like it might have done better.
I don't know why they didn't do June.
June, or someone even said if they'd done Labor Day weekend. I was like, I could see that being like the last big movie of the summer. Like that
could have done
worked that. Because I think and they probably weren't expecting Barbenheimer to become a thing the way it did. Because who saw that coming?
I don't know. We've been talking about it for. Maybe not a year ago when they supplanted this, but we've been talking about Barbenheimer for 6 months now.
Yeah.
And it's become a thing because so many people have talked about it. And it's just a rare occasion that those two major releases.
They probably thought they didn't have the competition that they were going to have. I don't know, but we'll see. I mean,
but you know what?
Let's
move on. Again, like we said, Barbie will be next week, but this week we have Oppenheimer.
Babby.
So let's see how we thought about the big major next Nolan film. Yes, here is our review of Oppenheimer.
This year has been packed with franchise films and what would normally be major releases. Yet for all the massive IP movies or films from typically praised artists, there have been relatively few that have stood out, and even less that have become the massive successes and money earners they should have been. Hollywood's financial drought seems to have received a brief reprieve, as this weekend the dual release of what fans have now nicknamed Barbenheimer is upon us, with Greta Gerwig's Barbie raking in dough and the more austere Oppenheimer from Christopher Nolan coming in at a close second, doubling its worldwide projections. Barbenheimer has been the explosive success most expected. While Barbie may have won the weekend, Red Moon has chosen to stick with the tried and true Christopher Nolan. A much less difficult choice to make this time around, as our options were much less pathetic than previous. And sad Russell Crowe is nowhere to be seen. Instead, we get the brilliant Cillian Murphy, powerhouses like Robert Downey Jr. and Emily Blunt, and Matt Damon. Poor Matt Damon. With a narrative split into two timelines, made distinct by one playing out in color, titled Fission, and the other narrative displayed in black and white, labeled Fusion. Nolan has described these narratives as subjective and objective. The color Fission narrative plays as the subjective viewpoint of Oppenheimer himself, while the black and white is meant as an objective view of Oppenheimer's history, dealing mainly with the ramifications of his work on the Manhattan Project, from the viewpoint of Robert Downey Jr.'s Louis Strauss. The film plays with narrative like this, using the ideas of fission and fusion to showcase Oppenheimer's conflicting personality, and compartmentalizing aspects of his story in color. While this narrative jumps around a bit, it's all tied together by the fusion narrative in black and white, focusing on Strauss's vantage point, tying together the fission plot points through two key hearings, one on the decision to repeal Oppenheimer's security clearance with the government, and the other Strauss's own Senate confirmation hearing. Nolan has long been praised for his flair for practical visuals and creative narrative storytelling, and there is some cleverness at play in the way he has chosen to tell Oppenheimer's story through the use of two narratives thematically linked to the principles of fission and fusion. However, I don't find Nolan's execution brazenly clever or unique. Dual narratives and using black and white versus color to contrast them, while well utilized, isn't the kind of narrative innovation Nolan's reputation upholds. Likewise, I don't feel the movie dives into the physics of fission and fusion enough to draw out the clever comparisons of Oppenheimer's life with said principles. And I feel once these titles come and go on screen, those with little knowledge of physics will make the connection again on their own. This is a bigger gripe overall with the movie, as it has been promoted around the creation of the atomic bomb itself, and the practical recreation of the explosion has likewise been hyped as a selling point for the film, yet both are lacking. With prior movies like Inception and Interstellar, Nolan provides deeper analysis of the mechanics that make both unique, that allows for a deeper experience without hand-holding. It's not that both are beyond comprehension, but Nolan included enough of the real-world science to make them believable. With Oppenheimer, everything feels almost too layman, outside of a few key scenes where Oppenheimer is mulling over theories of collapsing stars and black holes. Instead of the technical aspects, Nolan leaves the fission and fusion themes at surface level to focus on Oppenheimer's conflicted mindset, and cautionary themes surrounding whether the creation of the nuclear bomb was for the good or ill of humanity. The film stays rather neutral, mimicking Oppenheimer's own conflicted ideals, and as said, serves mainly to be thought-provoking, questioning what humanity has unleashed with nuclear power. Though this itself is also not unique, and I can't say the film raises any other ideas or says anything new that every other cautionary tale about nuclear power hasn't since the Cold War itself. Overall, Oppenheimer is well crafted, well acted, and does tell the key points of Oppenheimer's life. In this, it does succeed as a biopic, though what Nolan delivers is not exactly what the trailers promoted. With heavy emphasis on the creation of the bomb and how it forever changed humanity, yes, I expected the cautionary tale after seeing trailers, but the bomb's creation is but a small fraction of the film, with more going into the politics surrounding its creation and the discrediting of Oppenheimer. It tells his story and raises cautionary questions, but doesn't dive deeply into either. If his work on the bomb isn't the key focus, then I'd have liked to have seen more of his character and relationships. And while we get them, they are mostly shown to highlight Oppenheimer's flaws, and again highlight his mindset and inability to commit in many aspects of his life. It's an interesting aspect to focus on, but makes very little of the real-life people on screen relatable or likable. Yes, this is based on history, but the movie overall feels like there were too many rich aspects it wanted to focus on, and while it does a great job of covering the scope of Oppenheimer's career in 3 hours, none of the varying aspects on display feel as rich in depth as Nolan's best films. Inception, The Dark Knight, Interstellar are loved just as much for the characters and their emotional journey as they are for the visuals and smart scripts. Oppenheimer has enjoyable characters but not compelling ones. Its story is well crafted, but ultimately doesn't set itself apart as an Oppenheimer story told only the way Nolan could. This doesn't make it bad, but it doesn't reach the bar set by Nolan nor the critics, who have hyped the movie as something never seen before. I give Oppenheimer 3 out of 4 stars.
There you have it.
Yeah, Opie Hammer.
Opie Hammer.
Opie Hammer.
Yeah,
Good old Ron Howard came to create the bomb.
Well, he's related to Arnie Hammer, but
Army
he's Opie.
or Arnie?
Arnie?
Arnie.
Arnie or
Arnie.
Army?
No, Arnie.
Oh, there's another.
Yeah,
it's his
Army.
brother.
It's
Yeah.
Army's brother.
Yeah, it's Army's brother.
I thought Army's brother was
Army and
Navy.
Arnie.
Yeah,
It was Navy Hammer.
Navy Hammer.
Where the
Yeah,
hell are we going with this?
I don't know.
Oppenheimer, 3 out of 4 stars.
I liked it.
He's like, I like
yeah,
it.
it was
you
your
came,
review.
You came down, didn't you?
It came down half a star. When I
Yeah.
walked out of the theater, I was on the fence, but I had like the strong. I was like, I really enjoyed that as 3.5. But then I was thinking about other Nolan movies and stuff, and I was like, well, I wouldn't put it up there with Interstellar or Inception or The Dark Knight for me, because those are my 3 favorites of his. And I was like, there's aspects of like they I mean, historically, because I always do before I write the review, like research stuff, like it is accurate as far as the main points go. I mean, obviously there's things Hollywood always has to dramatize, but
Yep.
the main points are all accurate. So I give it that. Like if you're looking for just a single like biopic of that period of Oppenheimer's life, it's good for that. But I do think that by going over both the creation of the bomb and like the security clearance hearings and trying to tell this wider swath of his life, and they do a good job in the 3 hours, I think you miss if you're going to focus not so much on the bomb like the trailer said, then I wanted a little bit more of the emotional depth with his personal relationships, I guess. And I know maybe that's not the goal of this movie. They're just trying to give you like the wide swath of these facts. But other than like kind of the affairs he had, there's not really much in there about him and the relationship he had with his wife or even some of the other scientists. Even with the general, Matt Damon's character, I think you get the most with those two.
True.
But even then, it's not that in depth. And I was like, I would have liked a little bit more of that. Because outside of the visuals and all of the scientific jargon that's in Inception or Interstellar, they still have really good stories at their core with characters that are well developed, that have emotional connections with one another. And I know part of this was to try to maintain being somber and have that kind of, like I said, the cautionary tale about nuclear power, which I understand. But even that aspect, I felt like, while really well done, doesn't have anything more to say than any other cautionary tale we've heard about nuclear power since the Cold War. And then these are me nitpicking the negatives. I gave it 3 stars. I do still really like it. I think Cillian Murphy gives an amazing performance. Robert Downey Jr. gives an amazing performance. As much as we make fun of Matt Damon, he did.
He surprised me.
He did good.
He was one that I thought was probably the most overrated looking in the trailer, or the most stereotypical that we see Matt Damon in these roles he plays nowadays. And you know, but at the same time, I was like, the role he played surprised me, and I actually enjoyed his performance throughout the movie. One that really surprised me in the movie, which we haven't seen, he's redeemed himself since his Pearl Harbor days, which took place around the same time.
Yeah.
So he's been in 2 period pieces during World War II, and that is Josh Hartnett.
Yeah.
I was surprised to see him go from teen heartthrob, I think World War II just started.
Yeah.
It's like, it's terrible. Terrible line from Pearl Harbor.
This is a much better movie than Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. But no, I was actually really, really surprised to see Josh Hartnett return. I thought he did well. It's funny because I think out of us 3, I'm probably going to be in the minority, and I will have rated it the lowest. However, the funniest thing is that everything you said in the review, you covered all of my issues with the
they
film.
They were just bigger problems for you than they were for me.
But yeah, they affected my score a little bit more. I ended up settling on 2.5, which is I have to go back in time, rewind here a little bit, because I'm going to change a score of another Nolan film that I think I probably praised a little bit more.
Yeah.
And that is Tenet. I think back when we did see that at the time, and maybe trying to give it a little bit more, because I'm still a Nolan fan, and I like what he does with cinema. But I will say that this is a better movie than Tenet. And yet I'm rating it probably worse than what I rated Tenet back in the day. I would definitely, Tenet to me right now is probably Nolan's lowest film, in my opinion. I don't think it should rank as high. I've seen it multiple times, and every time I'm just like, no, this is just subpar.
It's his worst, I agree.
But ultimately, settling on this one, it was just one of those things where when I walked out of the theater, and I told you all out in the parking lot, I was like, I got to mull it over in my head. I do want to see it again. I didn't hate it at all, and I did thoroughly enjoy moments of it. But I thought as a whole, it just did not do anything for me. And it's weird because it's like I like these types of drama films where they draw from, whether it's political or not, and we can get into that a little bit in a sec. But just on the surface level, it's not that turned me off of it. I think part of it goes back to how much I thought this was going to focus on the creation of, the A-bomb and the science behind it, and how much of the way he even billed the movie was, this is the man that changed the world forever.
Yeah.
From the moment we discovered how to split the atom. And I did think it was interesting that they start out that way, and they kind of do the way you put it in the review, and I like that, was they put it in layman's terms, and I was like, okay, that's fine to get me interested and to get me a little bit, cookie cutter. But then I thought they'd dive in a little bit deeper, kind of in the same way that they do to a degree in Interstellar. And even there, it's tame in terms of touching on the scientific aspects.
Yeah.
But you knew that there were things that were. Well, what is it?
Or Jacob Burris.
Oh, go ahead.
He was with us when he saw this, and he just wanted to point out the fact that Florence Pugh had flashes of brilliance in this film too.
Indeed.
Indeed, she did.
I actually have
Multiple.
thoughts on that too, but I was going to let Brandon finish.
Yeah. Sorry, I just thought that was funny.
No, it is. It definitely is.
Also, our live stream dipped out for policy violations. It's
on
back
Facebook.
on now. Yeah, it's back on now.
Watch on YouTube. Look, I hate to say it. Facebook has
Actually,
been doing
it says
this.
on YouTube.
It shouldn't have.
That's because Kristen said your live stream got suspended on YouTube.
Really?
For a few minutes for a policy violation. Now it's back
Which
on.
is interesting because our the review went up earlier today as far as uploading,
Yeah.
and it didn't give me any
I don't know.
red flags.
Usually YouTube doesn't give us as much problems as Facebook does.
That is interesting.
It's,
Well,
it's weird because our restream chat window, it actually made it timed out in the middle of the show here and made me relog back in too.
Okay.
So
it could also be that you can check out the full review if you missed any part of it. It is posted actually. Yeah, it's live right now on the. Wait till after our live show and our discussion, of course.
Right.
But no, it's posted live again. Like I said, there's no copyright strike on it. You can watch it in its entirety on YouTube right now. If it did dip out, and they might have caught it just because it's again. They're probably different with live streaming versus when it's posted.
It won't be suspended when we do our Barbie thing.
Of course not.
No,
they got to promote that. But no, when you go back and watch this tomorrow, if you rewatch the live feed, they'll have approved it by then.
Yeah.
It'll have gone through the censors. This is the problem with technology, and when it doesn't work in such a way that it's like when you have robots doing things, it doesn't have human discretion. This is how crap like this gets picked up.
It's the hassle that you have to go through, and you don't have the money and lawyers to constantly.
Yeah.
Oh,
keep
of
you
course
involved.
not.
And Jacob, since you're watching, what was your score? Go ahead and send us a message. And,
Yeah, Jacob.
Well, and I've kind of talked about it a little bit, Sean.
No,
What-
if you had other, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just thought
Well, no,
maybe we were
we'll,
not live.
I
And
know
we
we're
thought
going to
we
continue
were,
to discuss either praising or nitpicks. So, Sean, what about your score? I gave it 2.5.
No, I gave it 3.5. It was one of the best films I've seen this year. It is one of my higher picked Nolan films.
Okay.
I thought this was kind of out of the box for Nolan because usually the movies that he chooses to do, they make you think a lot. And this was one of those movies where it didn't really have a catch. It didn't have like some scientific thing that you've got to contemplate on and think about, and it's like the fourth time you watch it, oh yeah, I finally get it now. I think that's how Inception and Tenet were meant to be. It's like until the third or fourth time you watch it, you don't fully grasp what that's going for.
You just watch again because you couldn't hear it the first time.
You couldn't hear it, yeah.
I don't think with Tenet, I don't think there's watching it any amount of times to fully grasp, just because I don't think it's as cleverly done. But
that's true. That's true.
I don't think he fleshed that one out as well.
Yeah.
Like with Inception and Interstellar, you can watch those, and everything you need to understand is in the movie. You just have to watch it and find it. I think Tenet he dropped the ball, but
Tenet's my least favorite Nolan film next to Memento. I didn't like that one either.
I still never seen Memento.
Love
I need to
Memento.
watch Memento. I've still never seen that one.
Memento,
No,
I love
Yeah.
Memento. Anyways, continue.
No,
Sean,
I was
sorry.
just gonna. This was one of my favorites. I think I'd go The Prestige, Oppenheimer, and then Interstellar and Inception, and work my way
You
down.
have Prestige at the top?
I love The Prestige. It's one of my all-time
Wow,
favorite
even
movies.
above The Dark Knight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Wow.
That
Yeah.
one's more in the middle for me, but I mean, it's not a bad movie by any means.
But no, I really liked it. I thought all the performances were great in the movie. There was a couple of lines that I think you see kind of in the trailer that were delivered, and just kind of the line that Matt Damon delivers that we all kind of laughed in the theater, where he's like,
biggest thing in the
world.
world.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. But it's unlike Nolan to have those kind of lines in his films, so I feel like that was a little lackluster compared to some of the other things that we've seen. But no, for a 3-hour movie that's mostly dialogue with a little bit of action in the middle where they actually set this thing off, I think it held my attention better than any other movie of that kind. I thought it was a great. I mean, after the movie, I watched the documentary about Oppenheimer, and there were so many things in the documentary that were almost shot for shot in the movie, where it was like he watched old footage and recreated it in his film, which you can say that's clever or it's just copying what's already been done.
I
But
feel like that's
it
very
was
Nolan-like,
very
though.
very accurate in terms of the way some of the pictures of him like looking at the bomb before they set it off, him kind of inspecting things. Like there's a documentary that has actual footage of him, same position, same clothes, I mean, it's very amazing the detail that he took to put into the film, other than the American flags. But
Which
I've
I've heard some people say that was kind of maybe intentional.
yeah.
Because there was another scene where it was accurate.
yeah, I wait to hear from him before I make a
I mean,
decision.
and then there's other people who said, well, he is British.
yeah.
The scene that was incorrect was more of a surreal scene, so maybe he was making a point.
And that's what a lot of people have said.
Because I will say that is one thing Nolan's normally known for, is the attention to detail, and that's why I think
I didn't catch it. I had to read about it.
Yeah, I
so.
didn't catch it either. Because a lot of it is very accurate, so from me going back and looking. Like you said, shots being very similar to the documentary, and I think that probably was intentional from Nolan, just because he does normally have that attention to detail. And those parts I do agree with.
Cinematography and sound were
Exceptional.
fantastic in this film.
That was
honestly, next to Dunkirk, I think this was second best in like sound and tone that I've ever heard in one of his films.
I think it was number one for sound. For me.
sound.
I mean,
I agree with
I like
sound.
Dunkirk better. I just think some of the war scenes and Saving Private Ryan's hard to beat, but I think Dunkirk, like, just do the gunshots just pierce your chest.
Yeah.
Literally, the sound is amazing, and this is second in my rating. But I don't know. It's I think it's a great movie. I think it's going to be Oscar worthy. I think Cillian's performance is going to be Oscar worthy.
A lot of people are saying that, and
yeah.
Robert Downey even.
I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah,
They're throwing both their names in the hat.
And we'll see. For me, like I agree with the sound. One thing I don't think was as good as they kept hyping, and something that has been better.
We're all going to agree on
the bomb.
Just the visuals in general, specifically the bomb.
Yeah.
And even people I've seen who have praised the movie, like I've seen so many comments online and even reviews that have all agreed that the actual setting off of the bomb itself is underwhelming.
That was my only gripe.
They hype it up in the trailer. They hype it up in all the press conferences and everything about him recreating like this, not the nuclear explosion, but just recreating what it would look like. And it doesn't really look like what you've seen in footage. And even some of the other visuals, which were cool, like knowing that's not CGI. He talked about using a lot of fluorescent paints and ping pong balls and smacking them against each other.
Like the macro
I
shots
love
and things like that. I
Those
think they look amazing.
Those were
what
awesome.
kills me though is so many of those were used in the trailers to promote it, and then when it became part of the film, and you're like,
I've seen that already. What else you got?
Right, and also they use it exactly for what I was kind of expecting. The way they show it in the trailers, they use them as like transition pieces or moments where he's thinking about certain theory. And again, it's not bad, it's good, but so much of that is part of the you're watering my mouth to get me ready for the big moment. Yeah. And then when it happens, you're just kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
it's like that 4th of July fireworks show where they do like the mortars and the huge like 26 shot fountains and stuff, and then you get to the end and it's like, oh, shit, all I got's a pack of bottle rockets. And that's exactly what he gave us.
And I feel like for as much as they've talked up the visuals in this movie, and I agree, the cinematography is great. Nolan always has great cinematography and visuals in his film, but I just felt like, for me, I think Interstellar is still probably his best for just pure visuals.
And even that one, to me, I like it visually in terms of to me, there just wasn't enough in it. It's not that I was disappointed by the visuals in Interstellar. I wanted to see more.
Well, that's how I feel about Oppenheimer. I felt like there just wasn't. I was like, I want more than this because I know you can. And you hyped it up. And maybe they just hyped it up too much, and that's the problem. It's like maybe you shouldn't have promoted this film based on the visualization of the atomic bomb.
Yeah, I wanted more of the bomb, but I was satisfied with everything else.
Right. And that was the issue. Is I'm sitting here, and I couldn't be mad at the film when I walked out of the theater, and I'm like, it's not called The Manhattan Project.
No.
It is called Oppenheimer.
It's not called Trinity either.
Exactly.
So it's like,
and I'm sitting here thinking the whole time,
you can't bash it for not solely focusing on that.
Right. Even though that is part and part. I mean, they hint at the political, not the political aspect, but they hint at the, the Senate hearing committee and whatnot in some of the final trailers of the film. So I knew that was going to dip its toe in it, but I thought a majority of the film was going to be about the hardships they faced, scientifically, and the hurdles they got over scientifically during.
Because they spent years developing it. It's not like they just went out in the desert and knocked it out in a few months. I mean, it was years.
And so I will say, like, that was the part of the film that I was underwhelmed by how much they cut away to the hearing. And it's not to say that it's unimportant in terms of Oppenheimer's story. I think it's very important to the man. I just, for the movie and what it was billed as, it's not one that it was the way I like to say it, kind of like Sound of Freedom we just reviewed a few weeks ago. That one on the opposite side of things, I thought that was a tremendous film, and that's one that I still don't plan on watching all the time because the content matter is still so bleak. It's not entertaining to watch. This one was in the same vein. It was like I enjoyed it. It's not something I'm going to be aching to be like. Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching it again when it comes out, on 4K Blu-ray because of the spectacle, and I do want to, soak up a little bit more of maybe what I might have missed, because it is very fast-paced in terms of I mean, the only thing that maybe you could say Nolan does that and it's not really anything that's a Nolan shtick, like the creative edits he had in Dunkirk, or, the plot points of Inception and going down level to level in Dreams. But in this, he does the fission and the fusion, black and white color narrative. And ultimately, I just felt like the editing was akin to something like The Social Network, where he's going through the litigations in that movie. and yet to me though the litigations help support the other aspects of the story of telling you Mark Zuckerberg's story of creating Facebook, and it's way more riveting in that film and how it's done and how it's interspliced versus this film where I felt like some of it in the beginning was a little jarring. And then even when you start to understand the pacing of it, it just became less interesting as it went on because I was like, okay, I'm fine I understand what you all are getting at. I know that this is important for Oppenheimer the man, but it's like I kind of want to get back to the bomb. I want to see what's going on there because to me, I'm still in this mode of they keep giving us little pieces of, now that Hitler's dead, what about Japan? And it's like, okay, so we know that time is progressing and passing, but I never really felt like I was feeling the angst of the scientists who were involved in the project or even there were times where I felt like, oh yeah, they're rushing to get to this, conclusion. But at the same time, there were also times where I felt like, well, they're kind of laissez-faire about it. And they're just kind of going along and just, we'll get to it whenever we get to it. It just felt uneven in that regard. Ultimately, I didn't think. Go back and listen to the review. I thought you hit on all the points that I had an issue with and all the praise. It's not a bad film at all. I just not one that I walked out thinking, wow, that blew my socks off. No pun intended.
As far as like the narrative structure, I didn't have a problem with it. My only issue with that was that it's fine because of this being more of a biopic and it being a little bit more, like Sean said, a straightforward story. I'm okay with that. But then you add in like the fission and the fusion subtitles and make part of it black and white. And it's like you're trying to create this parallel and these themes, but then you don't really
revisit
You don't really do that. It's like you just play it straightforward from there on. And that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But if you're just going to play it straightforward, then don't have like the fission and the fusion and the black and white to try to create these themes that you're really not going to connect back to. But again, that was a minor thing for me.
That to me also goes back to, again, what you pinpointed out in the review, the issue I had with the relationships they did involve. Jacob bringing up Florence Pugh's amazing performance. I will say I thought that was a little bit forced.
I didn't think it was a Nolan fully film, necessary.
It seemed a little bit like, oh, Nolan's got an R-rated film now. He's in the club. And I'm like, there were like 3 F-bombs and like the nudity scene. And I was just like, it just felt a little bit.
She didn't have to be fully nude in in all the scenes she was nude in. I agree. I didn't mind seeing it, but it was one of those things where I'm like, I think having that story in there is fine because it really did happen, and I know it's trying to highlight some of his whole, like, he can't commit to anything, not even his own marriage.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where that's fine. You want to keep that aspect in there, but some of it that I felt like you said, like maybe it was just a little bit more graphic than it needed to be just for the sake of that R rate. Like you could have gotten the same point across without.
The documentary talks about how wild that woman was. And I can kind of see where, well, maybe he's wanting to show just how wild and how much she flaunted herself and didn't really care about what other people thought and all that kind of stuff. But again, he's done that with other characters in PG-13 movies.
Yeah, they didn't have to be naked.
Yeah, they didn't have to be.
and again, I think because so much of the aspect of whether it was Emily Blunt's character or Florence Pugh's character, the aspect of how important the relationships were in his life were not a key part of the film. They kind of took a back seat. Yeah, they have pivotal moments in the film, but even when those occur, I felt like they still took a back seat to the 3 main narratives, which are the individual committee that Oppenheimer is a part of, the A-bomb portion that's kind of the center aspect of the movie, and then the end, which is the Senate hearing with Robert Downey Jr. And it's like, yes, there is a key pivotal moment with Emily Blunt, and of course her standing beside him and kind of being this protector of, a man that she loved through thick and thin. There is that aspect of it, and I picked up on all of the narrative messages that I think they wanted me to with displaying the relationships he had. But in terms of, and again, it's what you're choosing to focus on a man's life, and yes, even for 3 hours, it's very dense, but it's also probably still lacking a lot of stuff that really goes into one person's life. It's very hard, I get it, to encapsulate an entire man's life, especially one as significant as someone who created or was a huge force in creating the A-bomb.
But it is still an aspect of, well, then why even include it at all if you chose to go with these other two narrative aspects? So there were things in that regard that felt like they shoehorned it in to the point where I was like, well, then why'd you even include it, or why didn't you choose to make this a stronger part of the narrative from the outset? Because the moments where they show them interacting, yes, they make sense, but they just don't give me a lot of meat. There's not a lot of meat on the bone, so it's just kind of like, okay, it's there. So that was just like another criticism I had for it. But again, that's why I settled on 2.5. We're across the board. You got 3 for our official review. Sean, you're at 3.5. I mean, I think we all enjoyed the film. Obviously, some more than others, but it's definitely worth a watch. It's a good movie.
When they release it in 4K, I'll definitely watch it again.
Same,
so.
same. And I likened it to when I walked out of the theater. It's not going to be my first Nolan pick for after I see it again initially after the first theatrical watch. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to be one. It's not going to be one that I'm just like, man, I'm going to throw that in there and go down this 3-hour rabbit hole.
Yeah. It's going to go in with my Nolan collection for sure. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I've got all of his films now. So
same.
Oh, I don't have Tenet, which I don't care as much, but I have the whole 4K box set they came out with not long ago. That
I don't have Memento, and I don't have
that because it's not in the box set either.
Following.
I've
was
never
a indie flick.
Yeah, I've never seen that one.
Yeah.
I don't have Memento because I don't know if that was done with Warner Brothers or not, but
I
it's
don't
not a
think it
part.
was.
Yeah, it's
I
not
don't
part of
think
the box set.
There's also not a 4K release of that yet.
That's probably why.
But I mean, you don't need a 4K.
And it's weird
because
because Prestige is one that I don't consider one of my favorite Nolan films.
Oh, I love that movie.
But it's weird because it's one that I will revisit because I enjoy the way it's told.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only thing, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. The only thing I don't really like about Prestige is I feel like the ending is a little bit. It's a little contrived the way the twist works, but I like the twist of one character, just not the other.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, it's an enjoyable film. It's one that I could easily sit down. I mean, just like the Dark Knight trilogy, I'm like any one of those. I think I'm probably in the minority here amongst us. I actually probably rate Dark Knight Rises higher than a lot of other people do. I think Dark Knight Rises is better than Batman Begins, but Dark Knight's better in my mind. I still think narratively and conceptually, in terms of creativity, I think Inception is probably Nolan's best work so far. In terms of how it's told throughout being a movie, I think it's very well done. But it's also not one that I've probably seen in a long time.
Yeah. Just a quick little nerd thing about Oppenheimer. Kodak, they had not made black and white film in like 30 or 40 years. And they made the black and white film specifically for this movie.
That's
and
awesome.
They haven't, it's been like 3 decades or something since they produced black and white film, and they made like a new line of black and white film in 65 millimeter.
Okay.
For the,
which is interesting because I heard about that before leading up to the movie. I heard that it was rare. Anything shot in IMAX is already hard to do anyway when you're shooting in film because it's that much more pressure and it's a huge format.
Yeah.
But that was the other thing too, is it was like that the black and white scenes shot on IMAX are almost, I mean, it's just next to none.
I thought it was weird because IMAX is 70 millimeter, but they said that the black and white film was 65 millimeter, which I had never heard of. I didn't even know that was a format at all. But
sure, they've got tons of formats.
So I guess they could do that, and then I don't know. I mean, I don't know how they.
Well, and it's funny because we
make it
didn't
fit with the rest.
Even here in town in Louisville, we saw it in IMAX. But I heard there's several locations across the U.S., but there's only 2 within our region, I think, that show it in the full format. That like they have a projector that will show it in the full format,
fill the screen,
that fills the screen and shows you the entire frame. Whereas we got a slightly cropped version, and that's how it is across a lot of different theaters, even in IMAX.
And I mean that's
just mind blowing though that even in the theater we saw, which was still huge and the best in our area, it was still cropped.
I just personally appreciate that Nolan still uses film. I mean, it's not a huge deal. I mean, we're in the digital age, but when I go back and watch 4K remasters of things on film versus digital, it's just so gorgeous. Like I told you I rewatched Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, the first one, because they have it out in 4K now on, I think it's on Disney Plus. Is only where you can watch it 4K, but it was gorgeous, and it's one of those things that yeah, you can make 4K digital film, and that's fine, but and I know some people hate grain in the film, but that's what I love. When I go back and see the actual film grain, there's just an aesthetic that I miss.
Have you seen Jaws in 4K yet?
Yes.
That is unbelievable.
It is gorgeous.
Like it's
E.T.
It's like
I loved E.T. in
like
4K.
watching it for the first time.
Well,
It's just-
I think it shows you too. To me, you talk about just I mean, there's still art in digital cinematography.
Yeah, I'm not trying to knock digital.
No. But I will say, I think a lot of the work and brilliance you're seeing right now in digital cinematography, and for cinematographers who know how to master that, there's still an art and a craft there, of course. But I think it's not going to hold up as well as cinematographers who know film and know how to expose it to the degree that in 30, 40 years, you could still get the same aesthetic feel that you were trying to aim for with film and exposing it the correct way than with digital and scaling it up and thinking, well, we lost all those bits because
You
now we're
can't-
in a higher format.
You can't go back and create something it never captured. And
Right.
the look of digital, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's too clean, which is a dumb gripe. But I like having the
And I
grain
know
and
that,
the
like-
detail that you don't have from film.
And I know Ari, I know that they even when they produce new sensors on cameras, it's still it's like they only take the best batch of the sensors they can get, and even then, when they upgrade to a new sensor, it's like every 10 years that they upgrade on their digital sensors. So you're getting like something that's going to last for a long time and be, I guess, available for what is the premium digital format of that time. And it's only going to get better. It is crazy to me that, we have all these. The great thing about film is that it is timeless in that sense that you can rescan it into the highest format right now that we offer. And you can find those artifacts, or you can even clean them up and get a better
It's a similar thing, I feel like, with books. Like, I still read things on my iPad because it's convenient, but I always will like actual physical books better, just because like there's a texture and a tactileness to that you lose with pure digital that most people don't care, but it's just something I enjoy. So,
alrighty, there you have it, though. 3 out of 4 stars for Oppenheimer. We're going to be reviewing Barbie next week.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. The other half of Barbenheimer.
Babby.
But let's get into our headlines. So it is because of Barbenheimer's release, even though we're in the midst of the strike with the WGA and SAG,
yeah,
it seems that as of right now, Hollywood's implosion is staved off. For
a
now.
month.
if two movies coming out can save an industry, then was that industry ever really about to implode? Like, come on.
Or no, quite the opposite. Was it ever really on the verge of succeeding? That's what I would say.
Yeah.
It's already kind of in a sad, pitiful state if you have to depend on two major blockbusters
Yeah, that's true.
to save the industry.
I just think some of the outcry about, we might lose. This happened with theaters just a couple years ago. Everybody, AMC's going out of business. AMC was never going out of business.
I don't know.
I think they were once upon a time.
I do. I think so.
Based on just how crappy they've still been. But
I don't know how those gold mines have fared.
They're working out.
they've
something.
been limping along ever since.
I think we got a really crappy theater
I
that
think
we see,
Hollywood-
but
yeah.
but I just don't think they were ever about to tank. I think
a lot of it was PR. A lot of it was definitely manufactured crisis to get business partners together and to rally behind them. It is harder, I think, but the bigger they are, the bigger they fall.
That's true.
And it is harder too sometimes for them to fall. I mean, we do have a story of this past week, which we're going to get into, in kind of the bleaker message of Braun, an independent, an independent production company.
They tend to
that partnered
co-finance,
with some of the bigger players, WB and
Warner Brothers, Sony. I know those two specifically because Sony's Ghostbusters. I forget the movies with Warner. They've co-financed quite a few big franchise
and
films.
they filed for it is the bankruptcy that is restructuring.
Yes.
But even still, I mean, when you have them behind movies like Ghostbusters, Afterlife, and I forget the other big name that they just
I just pulled it up.
Joker.
So,
Joker.
That's Warner
Huge.
Brothers. Licorice Pizza. That's not
Yeah.
that's not a huge movie, but critically, I mean, it was nominated for
Best Picture.
So,
and
and it's one of those things where that I think that's what you tend to see first. And anytime there's a strike or something that impacts money is that, your bigwigs like Disney, Paramount, Warner Brothers, they tend to be able to withhold and withstand these things better because they have billions of dollars to fall back on. Whereas the smaller companies like Braun, that they don't have all that money to throw around and withstand, droughts, they go under or we have to restructure. You mentioned AMC, like that being a manufactured crisis. I do think some of this with Hollywood is the same thing, where they're just like, everybody feel bad for Hollywood. We're going to go under. You're never going to have a movie again. Like we said, if Hollywood were to implode, we would still have movies and shows. Something different would just come from what they are.
We'd actually get movies and shows we
Probably
want to
better,
watch.
yeah.
It's true. I mean, that's part of the problem.
I think they want to scare people into thinking they're never going to have entertainment again because they want to maintain Hollywood as it is. It's like they don't want to have to change Hollywood, so everybody fear us losing out because you'll never get to see a movie
It's like
again.
you just mentioned about the big production companies. They're the ones who are going to hold out and survive, while some of these smaller ones like Braun, they're going to die. But then doesn't that just give more business to the big production companies? If there's no small ones for people to go with, then they have to go with the big ones, so it benefits them.
I think in what we've seen, and this is why I said it's only staved off for a while, is because you can have a huge weekend like it is, and it's more successful for the theaters, and the fact that they need that lifeblood pumped into them. They need the foot traffic. They need the people buying the goodies at the concession counter.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's still going to impact the industry as a whole when you have major losses from someone like a Disney. Because the thing is as much as I am glad to see Disney hurting right now, there are going to be far greater down the line repercussions of that immediate, that immediate illness that affects those who are at the worst part of, it's like, oh yeah, we can do without them, let's get rid of them. And you're going to have the upper echelon that stay intact, when really that's probably where the cancer is.
Yeah.
The cancer is within the upper echelon, and you can kind of get a little bit of that. I mean, that's what's so disappointing with the talks of the strikes. We talked about it a few weeks ago when they first came about, and there are some things that are being fought for from the unions that make sense for the people who are the underdog. But yet at the same time, they never seem to be pointing their finger directly at the ones that that need to have their finger pointed at.
Yeah.
And I feel that's the issue, is that you're almost always just you're kicking the can down the road and putting a Band-Aid on an issue that really is the bigger problem. And that's why I'm like, I don't mind to see Hollywood hurting right now.
I see the big ones. Yeah, let them suffer a little bit, so maybe they get a little bit of a taste. But like you said, that's very much Hollywood in general. Let's point out this problem that's a huge problem in Hollywood, whether it's the Me Too movement, whether it's diversity. But we're going to gripe about it. But all the people who are responsible for these problems are still going to stay in power.
Oh, did y'all see?
We might sacrifice Harvey Weinstein, but everyone else is going to stay in power.
Right. Well, and like, for instance, Disney's shooting themselves in the foot again. Did y'all see that interview with Variety from, the girl who's playing Snow White, Rachel Ziegler and Gal Gadot?
Yeah.
And the fact that they came, it's like, it's not 1937 anymore. She doesn't need to be saved by the prince.
Yeah.
And I'm just like sitting
She said
here.
she's not going to be.
Right.
She's not going to be saved by a man.
So, I mean,
It's like, so you're not even telling Snow White.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's not even...
Well, they weren't when they cast her.
I
Right?
know.
Yeah.
No.
She has
there's
skin
no-
as white as
there's-
snow.
there aren't-
she's tan.
Listen, there aren't 7 dwarves either, so, I mean, at this point...
Matt
they're
Walsh
just,
called her Snow Brown.
Yeah. That's not any type of snow you want.
Brown snow. No go.
But no, I mean, it just shows you that the people who are in charge that are creating these things that you don't want to see, the money's got to come from somewhere. We used to say that, the indie flicks that maybe were good but weren't generating the income, it was all because of the big blockbusters
they were
that were
funded.
funneling
Yeah.
the money. But when people aren't showing up for Indy 5, when people aren't showing up for Mission Impossible after the initial outset, that is the issue at hand. So when you see a week like this where people are showing up to see, again, I have to hand it to Oppenheimer, not only for getting $80 million, but at the same time, it's a rated R biographical pick in a very cerebral manner. That's a pretty tough movie to sell.
And it made more than they projected.
Exactly. And I think it shows you that you do have audiences, even in niche markets, that are hyped and willing to support a movie. Sound of Freedom is a perfect example. You have a category of people who are yearning to have content for particular purposes that Hollywood won't touch with a 10-inch pole because they want to keep shuffling out this crap that deals specifically in woke matters that we have seen time and time again fail over and over the last several years. And yet they want to blame it on the pandemic. They want to blame it on the fact that, not enough people are coming back to the theater to support us. And yet they don't ever look in the mirror and say, maybe the creative issue is with us more so than people not willing to go to the theater.
Say, heck, they're already projecting future movies to bomb. It's like they already expect, like Blue Beetle. It's like they already expect it to bomb. It's like it's not even out yet, and you're saying, this one's not going to make any money. It's like that's a problem when you've already fully produced a movie. Heck, at that point, why don't you go the same route as Batgirl? It's like if it's not going to make any money,
pull it.
Why don't you cancel it and get a tax write-off?
Well, and there were a couple of theories in that regard. They were thinking, maybe they'll use the strike as a way of saying, we can't, we're not going to show this right now. We're going to push it back because we don't.
They're already talking about doing that with
solidarity.
Dune and Aquaman. Not much so much out of solidarity, but just to have something to release if the strike continues on. It's like, if it's real long, it's like, why release Dune?
That's what we
and
saw.
Aquaman this year. If we don't have nothing else to show next year, push them to next year so we still have a movie.
That's exactly what we saw when the pandemic started to wane, when we saw theaters opening back up. I mean, the reason why we ushered in Tenet was because, and I think theaters wanted it to be a success, was because they wanted people to come back and they wanted to get other production studios to say, hey, we go ahead, start releasing your movies. And they didn't bite.
Yep.
And yet here we are more than 3 years almost later, and yet I think we're well aware of saying that, yes, people are willing to go back to the theaters. We've had huge releases, whether that was Spider-Man back in the day.
Avatar.
No
Way Home.
No Way Home.
Yeah.
Avatar was a huge release back in December. Top Gun was a huge release last year. I mean, don't sit here and tell me that people aren't willing to go to the theater and see movies.
You just got to make something someone wants to watch.
Absolutely. Yeah. And continuing along with that trend of Blue Beetle even being a flop, it's like, especially when you come out with someone like James Gunn heading up DC, and yet you've already told us you're in a reboot phase, but yet you still want us to go and see movies that you don't intend on expanding on?
Yeah. I'm like, if this doesn't connect to whatever he has planned in the future, why does it even matter?
No, absolutely. It's baffling. So, I mean, obviously Hollywood is still reeling from not just the strike, but bad creative decisions.
Bad marketing. I mean, if you say that about your movie, you're marketing it as something that nobody wants to see.
Yeah, when you already tell people, that's what I'm saying. That's like why should I go bother to see it?
Yeah, it's like a coach telling his basketball team, "We're going to lose tonight, but let's go play."
Well, I don't think the production companies are doing that.
No,
that's just word of mouth.
But still, yeah.
So you can't blame it on.
Okay, well, I'll blame this on the production company. When Batman's probably the most popular hero in DC, and you release a trailer where you have a character say Batman's a fascist, even if it's meant as a joke, why do I want to go see a movie that's bashing
put a bad taste in people's mouth immediately?
That's bashing the most popular character you have.
I'm sorry. My wife just texted me, and there's a bat in our house.
Batman.
Like a legitimate bat. It's hanging. She sent me a picture. It's hanging on the wall.
That's
what?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Are you gonna have to take care of that when you get home?
She won't get close enough to it to get me a good picture.
Yeah.
She's
but
just
it's
trying
like
to zoom
it's
in.
on the wall in between my son's room and the spare bedroom. So it's just
it's
just sitting on the wall. But she sent me. I'm pretty sure
you should have said
it's a bat.
You should have been like, honey, that's it's from the Bat Cave.
Yeah.
Put it back down there. Yeah. And I'll take care of it when I get home.
Yeah, so that's what I'm going to be dealing with at midnight when I get home.
I used to have a bat that lived on the back of my garage.
Our neighbor has them in their attic.
I wonder how it got in there.
I have no idea.
I mean, maybe it just lives close by.
If there's one in the house, that means there's probably some in our attic.
I mean,
yeah, could
they're
be.
great for keeping moths and mosquitoes and stuff away.
They're great for keeping your wife away, too.
House, but yeah, you would prefer them to be outside keeping the bugs away.
Yeah.
But yeah,
well,
I don't know how I'm going to battle that when I get home.
Yeah. Told that. Just saying. But no, I mean, going back to just some other huge, Indy 5 just finally broke even. I mean, it's sad that you have this film.
That's a flop.
Absolutely. It was a flop. We knew week one.
Yeah.
So the fact that it took 3 weeks for that to break even, I mean, that's why I'm saying Barbenheimer is not going to be the huge influx of success that Hollywood needs as a whole.
Yeah.
And I have to believe that, too, I truthfully think that you're seeing these strikes come up at a time when they believe that their battle is worth waging because they see Hollywood being vulnerable.
Yeah.
They see the amount of him. But I also think it's kind of nearsighted in the fact that if you know these companies are vulnerable because they're losing so much money from bad IP or from even well-known IP that's failing at the box office, maybe that's not the time you go and ask for more money. Because you can pretty damn well bet that they're going to be like, what money?
Yeah.
We don't have any because we just lost $800 million.
Of money?
Yeah. We want a
What
bigger
kind, Diddy?
We want a bigger cut of the negative millions that you're making. I mean,
Right. Well, again, they can complain all they want about the executives making the big paychecks, and that's fine. That's a fair argument. Even though you're not going to the ones who are in your own union making that and asking them. I mean, I give credit to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He just put out a huge sum of money. They didn't say how much, but they said it was 7 figures. He put it into the SAG's coffers to help support the underdogs in
and that's
the
someone
union.
who's actually putting his money where his mouth is. I do respect that, as opposed to others who will say, well, we got to do this for the little guy who doesn't make as much as me. It's like, well, then why don't you give him some of your money?
Right.
I mean, it's like you want the executive, and I'm not saying the executives aren't overpaid too. Many of them are, but it's funny that it's like you want this executives to sacrifice, but you're not willing to sacrifice, especially since the executives are the one that if something goes under, they're the ones that have more to lose than the actors who are generally already paid for their work, unless they're getting a percentage on the film. But yeah, it's this whole thing is, like you said, I think it's maybe not the best time, but
I also I think it's funny that there was an article. I don't know why she's barking.
Something got her.
She heard something. I think she heard somebody hit I think they hit the floor or something.
I don't know.
And then she just whenever she hears
Somebody's knocking.
a low bass noise,
Yeah.
maybe there's a bat. Maybe I'm going to
get a bat in your house.
Got a bat.
She's going to get
Got
it.
a bat.
But no, there was an article that resurfaced apparently from this past year, or from not this past year, way
I
back.
actually remember this when it
I do
happened.
too.
Yeah.
And I found it funny because I do want to pull it up because it's about Spielberg and Lucas, and they were actually at the time releasing Lincoln and Red Tails, which both, I mean, Lincoln
I like
fared
Lincoln,
better.
but it's not
Red Tails
his best.
flopped.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
Red Tails is not good.
But it's funny because they were talking about this implosion about how there were going to be too many big players in the game that were going to make way too many failures, and that it was going to hurt the
They
industry
said
as a whole.
they would oversaturate the market with blockbusters, which is exactly what Hollywood's done.
Absolutely. And especially when you have the ticket prices that are as outrageous as they are to come and see movies that some people are going to pass up because it's like, why would you go pay that price for an indie flick when you could go see a big blockbuster? So you kind of have this double-edged sword of, well, the ticket prices have risen because they got to support these movies that we're now funding through this, but also support inflation in general for helping the theater owners get their money and their cut because we want the biggest, best screens.
Yeah.
And yet it's interesting because now we're in a narrative drought where the blockbusters we're seeing are not the ones we actually want to watch. They're not any good. And so people aren't showing up and supporting them, and now the major players are hurting. They're reeling.
They mentioned, and I agree with this, how the budgets for these movies were going to just balloon and be ridiculous and unsustainable. And I do agree, they predicted that. That's something I do think is a problem, is before you did the blockbusters to earn money to make the smaller films. But now these big companies aren't interested in making smaller films at all anymore. They're just interested in pumping more and more money into the blockbusters. But the problem is when you have these movies that are now crossing $300 million to make, which is ridiculous, it's like if you don't have a movie that makes close to $1 billion on a 300, because 300 million plus marketing, plus they say you always have to double just to make something, which makes sense. Actually, to give Matt Damon credit again, I saw an interview with him where he was talking about a movie the Candelabra movie he made that he produced.
Behind the Candelabra.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
gosh.
terrible thing. But he used that as an example. He said, I went to make this movie. The producers told me, it's like, okay, you have to spend this much on gross. He's like, but then you have to spend this much on marketing. And then you have to share, roughly 50% of the gross with the theaters. So in order to make your money back, you have to double it because half of that has to go to theaters, half of it has to go back to reimbursing all this. And I was like, it makes sense. You have to double the budget to make a profit because of how many people you have to pay out.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got a $300 million movie. You have to make at least 600, and that's not including the marketing. So you have to at least make 600 to break even. So in order to make a profit, profit, you have to go over 600. So you got to have at least
Right.
close to $1 billion on a $300 million budget.
And let's be
Yeah.
honest, I think that's why everybody who saw the success of the Marvel franchise was immediately wanting to create their own universe.
Yeah.
Because they thought continued success of continued butts and seats of seeing what the next iteration in a franchise would be. It was like, of course we want our own shared universe because it guarantees income right after we release another one. And I think that's the issue is now that we've seen Marvel dip and it's like we've seen what you can offer. You still have to offer something that people are wanting to go to the theater to see. And if you don't, then no, people aren't going to spend their money there.
Flashy effects and CGI is fun for a while, but you still need something of substance. And pumping in all this money to a movie for nothing but visuals, because that's all Marvel has become anymore, is not even good visuals. So that CGI has been pretty bad in their recent movies. So it's like, if there's nothing of substance there, people are going to get bored. And once you've churned out all this money for crap that nobody wants to see anymore, you're taking huge losses.
I also do want to point out real quick, Lucas back then said that Lucas and Spielberg also spoke on vast differences between filmmaking and video games because the latter hasn't been able to tell stories and make consumers care about the characters, which isn't to say the two worlds aren't connected. Spielberg, in fact, has teamed with Microsoft to make a TV show for the 360 based on a game, Halo. He is making a movie based on the Electronic Arts Need for Speed.
Neither of which came to fruition.
Yeah.
Need for Speed did come out. Had nothing to do with Spielberg because what's his name was in it?
I don't remember the Need for Speed movie.
Oh, gosh,
I don't either.
Jesse Pinkman was in it.
You're right. Yeah.
I'm forgetting the daggone
Aaron Paul?
name. Aaron Paul was in
Yeah.
it. Yeah, he was in Need for Speed. He was in that movie.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's right. Yeah.
The kid from Sling Blade was in Need for Speed.
Who's that? I don't know who
The little boy that played in Sling Blade. He's grown up now. I forgot what his name
that was
is.
Aaron. No.
Is that?
No, I don't know. I don't
Oh
know.
no. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Aaron Paul. Breaking Bad.
Yeah,
he was in it. Yeah.
Aaron Paul. He was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
but then also
There's
Spielberg
another-
had
there was
nothing
another
to do.
movie,
He had
something
nothing to do
about
with the
speed.
TV series for Halo,
Halo.
that came out on
Well,
streaming.
Peter Jackson was attached to Halo before Spielberg, and that never went anywhere.
Yeah, I was saying,
Yeah.
well, this is over. This is 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But I also think it is funny that you're talking about in 2013, which is also the year that Last of Us came out.
Yeah.
Which not only
Games don't have compelling narrative.
right, yeah, and now also is probably one of HBO's breakout hits from last year when they created the series for it. So I just think it's funny that back then they were just like, well, video games aren't there yet.
If they didn't have compelling narratives, why were they trying to make movies out of them?
Yeah.
Like why are you
Well, of
making a
course.
Halo movie if you didn't think that the narrative was compelling to begin
Well, they were
with?
trying to add the compelling nature to it, add that breath of life.
We saw how that went. That was awful.
But no,
show.
we've also seen what has happened in retrospect with, and look, not to say that the game industries can't be in the same boat of ballooning projects and creating things that are AAA titles that are garbage, but ultimately a lot of the AAA titles that we've seen that have come out and get heavily promoted are typically, I mean, other than some even Call of Duty, the reason it gets crapped on is one, because it's the same thing. It's the same basic game every single year, but it's people buy it.
Yeah.
And so you can complain all you want, but people still turn up.
So yeah, top seller.
But then you come out with games like Tears of the Kingdom from this year, or FF16 that I'm playing currently, or later in the year Spider-Man 2. It's like you have the games industry flourishing because I think you see that it's not only a much more interactive, medium, but when you do have fleshed out stories and characters that people, I mean, when you're going to spend hours in this universe, in this world, you want it to be meaningful. And that's been part of I mean, how many times have we talked about on this show of games? If we're going to play a game, it's like I typically go for a story-driven game. I want to know that I'm investing in characters and in time in a world that is made up, but it's creatively, it gives me the value that I would, the same as diving into a book or a good movie.
Yeah, Death Stranding has a better narrative than 90% of the movies I've seen since the pandemic hit. So I mean,
I would agree.
So
Yeah.
I can't. Well, you mentioned Spider-Man. That was a better Spider-Man story than almost all of the Spider-Man movies outside of maybe Sam Raimi's first two. So it's funny that people will crap on games, but then they'll.
Well, I don't say I brought it up to juxtapose where we were at 10 years ago, and it was
compared to
funny that
now.
where we are now, and I'm like, give it 10 years, and I'm like, you've already given the games industry 10 years, and look at how far ahead it's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think I brought it up a few weeks ago, but I made the point that it's like you have more intuitive or ingenuity and more inventiveness innovativeness in the creation of video games and in that industry than you do in the movie industry right now. You don't have as many people because it has become, I hate to say, after 100 years of existence, it's become let's just churn out something else. I mean, part of the reason I think you get the WGA and the SAG strike right now and their concerns over AI is because so much of the content we consume has just been churned out at a rate that it's like, how can you really enjoy it? You don't look forward to a new series in the fall. You look forward to a new one next week.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then if that one, either you binge it and you're done with it, you move on to the next one, or you look forward to it, you watch a couple episodes and you're like, I don't really care about this. I can go on to 50 others that are available. And it's like, I don't think that is a good, I mean, it's a lot of junk food out there and you got to find, the good picks that are savory.
It has really been a case of quantity, pump out as much as you can just so we have content. And I'm hoping that with the strikes, maybe we'll get a little bit of a return of quality over quantity. You know, Bob Iger keeps saying that, but I haven't seen it yet. So it's
just gave him a contract.
Get it with Snow White.
Yeah, well, yeah. And
the dwarves that aren't really dwarves.
And people could say, it's like, well,
you remember when Peter Dinklage went on a rampage about that?
Oh,
he screwed him. He screwed them all over.
Yeah. Oh, and they were all pissed at him. Several, I can't name them all.
All the dwarves are pissed at him?
Yes. Because he gets all the roles, and then he goes out there and he's like, I don't want to play a stereotypical dwarf.
I know. Wee Man, there's a couple of them that are actors.
Yeah, screw us over out of the roles we don't get.
They were like, we would rather have that so we have more acting roles. Yeah.
He's a wee man. I know who he is. I just think it's funny. The first one that came to mind was Wee Man.
Vernon Troyer's dead.
Is Wee Man still alive?
Yeah, Wee Man's still alive.
I don't know.
Willow, he's still going.
I'm trying to think of a Warwick Davis.
Warwick, yeah.
I don't know if he's talked
midget
on
name.
it. I'm trying to. There's another big one that I just can't think of. But yeah, it's just one of those things where it's. Anymore, it's all ridiculous. Who can get offended by what? And I think that's actually why video games. I mean, you see. There are the bigger titles and bigger companies that you're seeing some woke stuff seep its way into. But for the most part, I think video games still focus on the narrative and the gameplay. You don't have as much of the politicking going on because they want to sell this to mass audiences and get people to buy their games. It hasn't really gotten to that bad of a point yet.
Like you said, it's getting infiltrated by the woke warriors. But ultimately what you've seen is in any industry, in any art really, the things that succeed on a mass appeal level are simply because any creator, you talk to them on a personal level, forget their politics. I mean, now identity is shoehorned into everything, which makes it just utter garbage. But it's like when you actually part of the reason I love filmmaking and making movies was I wanted to create something that not only spoke from my own experience and my perspective, but connected to other people. If I create something solely for my enjoyment and nobody else's, how selfish and self-centered is that? Where can I get any kind of value out of connecting to nobody but myself? The great thing about watching a movie in a theater, let alone, is when you're in there and everybody's laughing at the same parts and everybody's enjoying the movie together and being shocked and, oh my gosh, I didn't see that coming. Part of the joy of seeing a film in the theater is that takeaway. It's being able to enjoy it with others, and when the filmmaker connects to something that transcends beyond the screen and connects to everyone in that audience. And I think it kills me when you see these people who are so up on their high horse about inserting a certain narrative or a certain particular perspective. And I'm like, so you can connect to the one or two people that have, because that's the thing. It gets so bifurcated at that point that you don't have universal messages anymore. And there are people like, well, our crowd wants to be seen. And then you go and talk to their crowd. And then it's like, oh, now I realize after talking to 5 of you in this particular minute category, you all have different perspectives on everything. So now it gets so heavily diluted that it's like we got to try to shoehorn all of these narrative perspectives into games that no longer, or movies or books or whatever, that just no longer make sense to the average Joe. Because most people, believe it or not, sometimes just want to show up to the theater and just be entertained. And they're not showing up to hear a sermon. And that's the problem with the industry and the state that it's in right now, is you have way too many woke warriors out there who are ideologues that are trying to push narratives and messages that average Joes don't want to see. So then you get mad that they're not showing up and you blame it on the pandemic? No. That's BS.
And that's one thing about Oppenheimer I'll give Nolan is even with the cautionary tale about nuclear power and the Senate hearings and all that, he kind of stuck to the facts. He didn't try to go, well, this senator was a Republican and this senator, like I didn't get that he was trying to push any one certain political ideal or narrative. It was very much a kind of a neutral ground of, no, this is what happened in Oppenheimer's life. And I was pleased with that he didn't try
That's
to.
what happened in actual history.
Yes,
It's like, let's talk about, let's show history as it really happened and not make up and throw stuff in there.
Yeah.
And I also find it funny too that it's like I heard somebody complaining that it was like, they were like, yeah, and you don't even see, there's only like 2 black people in the whole film. And I'm like, of course, you're going to have somebody who notices a racial angle, and never mind the fact of, again, historical relevance.
Yeah.
It's like, we got to throw that out the window because we got to make it Snow White. We got to change everything up and change the identity of it.
Well, they should have.
They said there wasn't any women
black man
physicists or whatever, and I'm like, there weren't any women physicists in
Right.
19.
Well, and actually,
They did.
they had one, and I thought they went out of their way to pinpoint her crucial matter.
Which was still true to history, but yeah, they did. They show cases like, oh no, there was that one that worked on it. Yeah.
And they made it a very crucial element that she got her point and her little dig in there about. And look, that's fine because of the I'm not going to just give it a pass. I'm still going to critique it in that regard, but it pains me that it's like we're at that point now where even those little things can't be pinpointed or given credit. It has to be over embellished simply because otherwise if you're not going to go out of your way to change the course of history to fit a narrative that we want current today, well, then it doesn't even make the story worth telling.
We're going to see that big time with next week's movie.
Wait,
you're going to see
Barbie?
with Barbie. You're going to see a movie that could have been made about a toy and about what it means to little girls all over the world, but instead you're going to get a completely different thing.
And I think a lot of people have kind of unveiled that in terms of, you took a property that you knew was popular, you even advertised it in such a cheeky way of, remember the advertisement where it said, if you love Barbie, you'll love this movie. If you hate Barbie, you'll love this movie. And it was coming from a very, you're going to be tongue-in-cheek about it, but it was, you thought it was going to be, kind of this gist, tongue-in-cheek humor that was going to be lighthearted, and yet they snuck an ideology in there. We'll see for ourselves. We'll review it, and we'll give you our opinion.
Been a lot of talk about it already, but yeah.
But absolutely, it's like I think that is definitely what people are more scared of nowadays when you get these bigger properties. It's like, is this just a Trojan horse for you to throw a political ideology at me? What if I just want to go and be entertained? That's why when you go to the theater anymore and you kind of are surprised when a movie doesn't go that route.
Especially when you take established IP, things that people love, because that's what drives me crazy the most. And there's a reason they do it, because if they made you could either take Barbie and throw your agenda in because everybody's going to go watch Barbie, or you can make up your own movie specifically about this agenda.
Bros.
But nobody's going to go. It's like, if you make it up on your own, nobody cares, so they're not going to go see it. So you have to throw it into an IP that has nothing at all to do with those types of politics. That's right. Because you see it with that's why people are getting tired of a lot of modern comic movies. It's like, none of this crap was in the comics originally, but you're going to throw it in there because, if we sneak it into Superman or Captain America, or if we put it in this IP that we know everybody's going to go watch because they love it, then we get to get our point across. And but then you tarnish what people already loved.
Right. No, 100%. And I think people are getting tired of it. That's why, again, until Hollywood takes a long, good look in the mirror and they recognize that fact about the current state of the industry, they're going to continue to have flops at the box office that are major, major franchises until they realize that, no, people don't want to see that woke garbage. People are tired of it. Get it out. We're done. We're not going to support it anymore. We're not throwing you our hard-earned money so you can just freaking turn around and look at us and say we're the bad people. Screw it. We're not supporting it anymore. Alrighty, guys. Let's move on to our story time segment. We got a good one this week.
It's story time, where the podcast members tell their stories.
Story time. Woo! All right. Y'all don't know what the topic is.
I don't.
Are you not entertained?
I am.
It's been a hefty
Russell.
show.
That's
a good
Russell
one.
Crowe.
Yeah. Sad Russell Crowe.
A
He's
time
not Matt Damon.
that you got a great deal.
A great deal?
Yeah, there's a reason why.
Because we
Sean just got a great deal.
Both
You just got a great deal.
We recently got great deals. Hey, when you buy stuff off some aftermarket Chinese website, you always get a great deal.
Well, actually,
Those Chinese slave kids, they make
It's
stuff
like I
cheap.
didn't even want to talk about that because I don't want to admit that I bought stuff from a Chinese
Why
website.
not? Why? Apparently,
Because
this Temu thing
I
has
don't
been
want to give them.
blowing
I
up.
don't want to give them money.
Apparently, it's
I don't know
legit.
what it is.
I was very skeptical because I saw all kinds of ads on like Facebook and stuff, and I'm just like, I'm not buying anything because it's kind of like Wish or AliExpress or any of those where it's like they have all this stuff that you can buy and it's all dirt cheap, but you don't really know if you could trust any of it. And my first concern was when they first popped up was just the legitimacy. It's like, I'm gonna give them my credit card number and then I'm gonna start getting all these crazy charges.
Yeah.
Like I knew that the quality of the stuff I might get would be similar to like Wish or AliExpress, and you're just taking a chance. I just didn't trust whether I could give them my information. But then after other people did it, and I've read some stuff saying no, it's legit. It's just you might get garbage. I was like, okay, I'll give them my stuff and try. I had stick drift on my Joy-Cons because all of my Joy-Cons are the
You gotta explain.
Yeah.
It's
Stick
like,
drift
sounds
on
like
my
a
Joy-Con.
personal
Yeah.
problem. to me.
Well, people should know.
stick drift.
Look, if you don't know what stick drift is, you're not a gamer. I'm not explaining it to you. Get over it. No,
You're not a man if you don't know
yeah.
what stick drift is.
So I had the original Nintendo Joy-Con controllers for the Switch. All of the ones I had were from like when it first came out. So they all had stick drift because that was a notorious problem that even Nintendo admitted. And they're like, we'll repair it for free since we messed up. Good on them. But you still have to send it in and wait and all
6
this.
weeks.
And we were going to the lake and I was just like, I really don't want to have to deal with, because anytime I play it mobile, you have to use those. And I'm like, I hate like you're trying to aim at something and it's just, here's your cursor going, woo, like off.
Yep.
So after discovering that Temu is mostly legit.
That happened with like every Mad Catz controller you ever had
Yes,
after a while.
yes. I was like, I'm tired of the stick drift. They say this is legit. They give you like a discount your first buy. They already had it like a flash sale as well. They're like $25 normally, I think, or $22. But because of all the discounts and stuff, I could get them for $3. So I'm like, here's the thing.
$3.
It's like they give you 90% off
Yeah.
your first purchase.
So I'm like, okay.
Are you serious?
Yes. Yeah.
So, well, because again, it's all made dirt cheap from some poor slave child in China. So I'm like, okay, I know they're not going to steal my. I'm just
American
saying,
way.
It's the American
That's
way.
right.
It's like we won't talk about. We ignore the bad going on as long as I get it cheap.
I think they get paid something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pennies, I'm sure.
It's like they're
They're
pure
getting paid
slaves.
something. That's right.
But yeah,
serving.
I thought since I know they're not going to rob me and steal my credit card now, I'll take a chance on getting some garbage controllers for $3. Like I'm only out $3.
Yeah,
if
no,
they-
that makes sense.
If they send me crap, it's like I'm only out $3.
Yeah.
They're legit. They don't have the NFC reader for your amiibos, but I mean for $3, I don't care. I said the rumble is, you can tell it's cheaply made. It's a lot louder than like I can hear it when I'm holding it, whereas the other ones I don't hear it go. Brrr. But yeah, I got a great deal. It works. It works better.
You said they feel like the legitimate ones.
They-
not the rumble, the build quality.
The quality,
They don't
I was
feel
like, they,
hollow
the
plastic
buttons and
or-
everything. The only thing I could say quality wise, like the buttons, the plastic, it all feels legit, is just the seams that go around them. When you hold like the actual official Nintendo
You don't
ones,
feel the
you can't
seams.
feel the seam. Whereas
Yeah.
this one, you can tell like they're not
okay.
as flush. But I'm like, hey,
And that's
For
probably
$3,
out of the
That's-
plastic
yeah, they had to
molding.
take them
It's-
apart to put the tracking
Yeah.
device
Yeah.
inside
for
them. and then
$3,
put 'em back together.
yeah, for $3 they work better than the official Nintendo ones I currently have.
Yeah.
And the fact that, like you said, if you now have an alternative to use while you ship the other ones off to get
Yeah.
fixed.
I'll use these. The others get fixed. Then I'll have 6 pair of or 3 pair, 6 total.
Yeah.
Of Joy-Con, and that's fine. If I have to keep these as backups, hey, it's like $3 well spent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about buying people's Christmas gifts on there. I don't know. It's like, how much was this? Oh, look, the MSRP is $50.
Hey,
I got it for
if you
4,
need an
whatever.
idea, there's wooden Korok figures on
He's
there.
gonna tell me exactly what he wants.
They're like $8.
Yeah.
They're wood, and they're the little Korok people.
think
And
they're
I want
wood.
one of those for my desk.
Like styrofoam and look like
now they
wood.
they say
No.
wood.
Here's the thing.
They say
They're so far
Chinese wood.
they've been
which
the
is styrofoam.
Plastic.
What's funny is they'll give you the actual MSRP of what it should be. So it's
Yeah.
like, here's this wooden statue.
Oh,
that's
really?
that's like
The same
it's
thing
normally-
is like $30 on Amazon.
But are
Amazon.
they
Theirs
selling it
$8.
as if that's what you're getting? Or are they giving it to you to be like, yeah, this is what we're trying to replicate?
No, they give you an actual, because like, I mean, the game he bought, it's the actual game. So
Yeah, so I'll get to that.
Yeah.
So my deal was I got Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which is a new game, for $23. The only catch was that it's the Japanese version.
Mm-hmm.
It's in English.
Yeah.
It defaults to English as soon as you put it in your Switch. Even the I was telling Brandon, even the thumbnail that pops up on your Switch is the American cover art, and it's in English. Okay. So it's just the case that it came in.
Well, you said it
says
even
Tears of
downloaded the
Kingdom.
update.
It downloaded an update as soon as I put it in the Switch and installed it, and it fired up.
Now you
Everything
can't
was in
do any of
English.
The duplicate glitches.
The voice acting was in English and all that stuff. You said what now?
I said, now that you did that update, you can't do any of the duplication
You
glitches.
think so?
You can't, because I've
They patched them
updated
all.
it to the
They
most
patched
recent-
it?
Yeah.
They've patched some.
No.
Not all.
There's
They're not
there's
all, yeah.
there's one you can do, but you have to get pretty far in the game before you can do it.
That's
so
all right.
it's
I didn't do it in
inconvenient.
Breath of the Wild, and I beat that one, so it's
I
fine.
only did a little bit.
A little bit,
A
just a little bit.
Little bit.
But yeah,
60,000
I got
rupees worth.
my first purchase. It says like up to 90% off. They have like a list of items that are in that category or whatever. And Tears of the Kingdom it was like 66% off. So I was like, for $23,
Yeah.
if they send me the actual like game and it's in Japanese or whatever, like that's fine. I read online before I bought it. They said the Switches are region free. Any game from any region can be played in a Switch. You just might not be able to download any add-on content or DLC, because the DLC would need to be from the Japanese eShop or Nintendo shop. And obviously, if I'm connected here in America, I'm going to be on the U.S. store. So
See, I'm thinking if it downloaded an update,
I
it
feel like
might
you
still let me. I
probably
don't
still
know.
be able
I don't know.
to,
I was
yeah.
going by what a
Yeah.
bunch of people on Reddit were saying about it, but they were saying that it would play, and there was actually another dude on that Reddit thread that said he got one from Temu, and it worked fine. So I was like, pull the trigger, $23.
it's
I'll,
worth it.
I'll try it.
If you can
And
say, I mean, the fact is
got
I
it
think
today and it
you
worked fine.
said it was on sale. It's in America. It's on sale right now for like 40 something.
No. The U.S. copy you can buy on Temu for $48
okay,
right now.
I got you.
Because I was going to share it, but I'm like, well, everybody I know has already got it. I was the holdout.
But it's interesting too, because even that is still, because the discount that they were giving like a week or two ago
It
was
was
still only like,
$50.
Yeah.
it was $50. So it was down that low.
Yeah,
I
it
thought
got
was
down to
only
50.
Oh damn.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was
I
only
almost
60.
bought it, but then
Yeah.
I was like, well, for 23,
Right.
I don't care if it's
And
got
if it
Japanese
works,
on the box.
It's
Yeah, if it
absolutely
works,
worth it
yeah.
for that amount. It's the same thing as the Joy-Cons. I'm like, $3, you can't
Yeah.
beat it.
I mean, they work. I've been using them ever since.
Yeah, my dad has bought stuff off there. Of course, you guys have heard that story before. He's
Wish.
all into Wish.
Well, he's gonna be
And
all into
he
TV
loves,
now.
Yeah, he's already. I told him, I was like, I know you like Wish. Have you heard about this one? He was like, I already got it. I've already bought stuff on
He
there.
knew ahead of time.
He told me
ahead
something
of
that he
you.
gave me. He was like, that thing I gave you, I got that on Temu or
Is it
whatever.
an app or is it?
Yeah, it's an app.
It's an app.
It's a website.
You can go on the web and
they
do it.
have
It's
a
a store.
website, but they do have an app. I've used the app.
I mean, do they have just all sorts of different
Dude, there's
like
It's like-
everything?
it's like Amazon. Yeah,
Okay.
but cheap.
very
Yeah.
very cheap,
Yeah.
and you don't know the quality.
Well, I mean, so far the quality seems to be
me,
there.
I was
but-
envisioning like a kind of like you've had these auction sites come up where they have like a pallet of
Yeah,
stuff
no.
and then you auction.
No.
But I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well maybe some of this is like open box things, and
A lot of
and
it's
they got really
off-brand.
cheap and
or knockoff stuff.
okay.
Yeah, a lot of it is like
Yeah.
like non like generic stuff, not name brand.
So like
but-
you know those Bluetooth speakers. So like I've been wanting to get a portable Bluetooth speaker like Keith has, but
Yeah.
JBL makes these big like pill shaped ones
Yes.
Yes.
that are outdoor, waterproof, and all that. So on that website, like they have one on there. The brand, the label looks just like the JBL label, but it just says TG instead of JBL. and literally like if
Tough
you
good.
if you look these things up, you can find Reddit stuff, like you can find these forums where people are talking about this stuff that they got,
And they're like,
and
"It's
it is
good,"
when
or-
they open it up, the board inside has JBL on the board.
Wow.
So it
really?
is a lot of the stuff is the legitimate crap that's coming out of China. They just put a different brand on it and sell it for $10 instead of $100.
Just to take money out of
It's like
the main, like whoever the company is that actually
It's
produces
like those Chinese Legos. Is it Lepin?
Lepins.
Lepin, yeah,
Lepin
yeah.
blocks. Yeah.
They're like the same exact thing, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's funny because it's like there's the part of me that's just like, man, that's wrong, and then there's the other part of me that's like, free market, man.
Hey,
But it ain't
inflation.
really free market. It's like they're stealing our crap.
Inflation, man.
There's-
If it
I-
was
I
that
know.
cheap here, I'd buy it.
Yep.
But
But it's not for that reason. It's like it's
That's-
only
that's
cheap
true.
because it's like they're producing it and they're just stealing it.
I
And
get
then
it.
they're taking it and they're like, well, we'll put it in this
yeah,
packaging.
that's
and sell
why
it
that's why I
something
wonder
else.
about those Beats headphones. I mean, that's where Apple has their crap made.
Yeah.
So there's a good chance that those are freaking Beats
Oh, I have
headphones
no doubt.
with a different brand on them.
You telling me just that now about the JBL thing? I believe almost wholeheartedly that most of the stuff is probably it's actually the brand. They just find a way to package it differently and sell it.
Yep.
And then they sell it for super cheap, but they get the money and they probably benefit tenfold.
They
off
You know,
have,
like the brand Anchor that
Yeah.
Amazon
Yeah.
sells.
Yeah.
So like they have Bluetooth speakers.
Yep.
They're like $150.
Yep.
But then they've got like an off brand that's called Zealot or Zealot or something. It's like Zeallt. I think that's Zealot. Anyway, they have that brand, same exact device, looks the same. Everybody online says it sounds the same, but it's called that. And dude, they're like $25-$30 on this website.
That's crazy.
I've thought about getting a new external hard drive to put my Plex on because I like the one I have. I think it's. Is it 4 terabytes? It's pretty cool.
I would not. I'm not trusting.
If it's
that.
cheap, I don't like because I've read the reviews on them. I'm
Yeah,
like, you
if
know,
it's super cheap and you get one and it lasts a year,
yeah. If it lasts, I don't
And
expect
you don't
it
have
to
any
last
problems?
forever. But I'm
Yeah.
like, you know,
I mean,
if it lasts
that's
me,
fine.
I'm just like,
there's just certain things I do not.
well,
don't
that's why I said
stray
for my
from.
Plex. If it's something that like
yeah,
I want
right.
to make sure I don't lose.
Not your main drive in your computer.
If I
Yeah.
lose my movies, that
You can
sucks because I have to
re-download them.
re-download
Yeah.
them all. But
That's
I'm just,
fine.
That's
but
what
I'm just
saying.
like,
that would
eh.
just suck because that's a lot of
You know.
data that you still got to download.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I would just hate to go through that hassle. I wouldn't even take a chance.
I don't know.
I don't know. I when it comes to like technology or even camera
Mm-hmm.
gear, like I don't. I mean, again, I get it. It's like hell, Amazon's this way too. As far as like when I get on there and I just bought a porch light, and the fact
Mm-hmm.
is like I just get on there and I find what's like the highest rated with the most reviews, and typically it's some brand I've never heard of.
Yeah.
But I'm like, well, if Amazon's selling it and shipped and sold by them, I'm like, I'll
If
trust
this many
it.
people gave it 5
it's-
stars,
Then I'm like, I'm trusting their opinion, and
Yeah.
it's funny that TeamU just popped up, and I don't know, maybe it's worth checking out and worth looking at.
I mean, they've been around for a couple of months now, but I think they just now are finally getting their name. Like, I
Well,
don't
when you're
know,
throwing
yeah.
in like 60-70% off or 90% off first time purchase, and it's like, I guarantee you a lot of it is just word of mouth, and that's what they're hoping for. I mean, that's how those things get started.
Well, the reason I initially did not trust them is because when they first started getting kind of big, they were kept advertising $7 switches, and I'm like, nah, this is BS. This is BS. Now I'm like, I think they were.
you can buy a Switch on there, but it's like $233.
Yeah, they're not doing that deal ananymore.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I guess to get people in, and if they have like
They
this,
were
somehow
doing,
they
like,
got these
some
this,
weird bulk.
like maybe it
Yeah.
was so like a pallet of switches fell off the truck and there was nothing wrong with them, but because they might be damaged,
Yeah.
maybe they're just like,
So-
well, now we could just bulk these out for $7.
You know the Linus Tech Tips guy?
Yeah.
So he has bought stuff from this website and unboxes
and done
it on the-
reviews
yeah,
of it? Yeah.
Yeah, and he did one on like the $10 or $20 Switch.
Yeah.
And they sent him this box, and it was like, it looked like it was a square box like this. Like not even shaped like the Nintendo box.
Yeah.
But it said like, it had the picture of the Switch on it, and it says like Nintendo in diagonal font.
Yeah.
Not even in, well, it's not their font, but it was written on there in like diagonally.
Yeah.
And so he opens it and he's just immediately starts laughing. And when he pulls it out, it's a square shaped Switch.
wow.
So it's
Yeah.
the Joy-Cons,
What?
and then the screen is like a 3x5 inch
That's
square.
awful.
And when he fires it up, it's like one of them retro game devices that
Yeah.
plays Super
Yeah.
Mario Brothers and
They have
Donkey Kong.
tons of those on there,
Yeah.
but they're all labeled as because like they have. It looks like a Nintendo, but it does
Yes.
say it does say like in the description that it's not an authentic Nintendo.
Yeah.
It's
They're
like
selling
yeah.
it with the Nintendo brand on
Yeah.
there to try to get people to buy it.
Yeah,
And
but
they're-
but they do like in the description say like it's
Not an actual Switch? or
well, they
something?
say it's like a retro gaming device that just shaped
got
that
like
it's just
400
looks
games
like the
loaded on it.
But
and
it
all this
looks,
stuff.
but it does look exactly like an original Nintendo. But they say in the description, you
Yeah.
know,
Wow.
this is a retro gaming device. So
I mean, it may be worth checking it just for some little odds and ends.
yeah, I
things
wouldn't,
that
I
wanna
wouldn't
check
buy
out.
an actual system on there like that.
No.
I wouldn't do.
Yeah.
But there's like Pokemon, like for the kids, I was looking for Pokemon posters for their room.
Yeah.
And they've got like, big, like 36-inch by
Dude.
27-inch posters for $1.99.
The
free shipping.
figurines. If you
The
have
figures,
figurines, yeah.
I mean, my mom got Sawyer a sling bag for his Switch that has like a pocket for the Switch and a pocket for the controller
Oh,
and a
nice.
game.
And it was on there?
Look like Pokemon on it, and she paid like $30 on Amazon for it. It's $8 on there.
Yeah.
Same
Now-
freaking thing.
Now that kind of stuff I would be willing to, because
Yeah.
to me I'm sitting here and I'm like those are already jacked up anyway.
There's
just
a huge
because there's a
markup,
brand,
yeah.
and the markup is ridiculous. Yeah, exactly. That I would not feel
Temu
ashamed.
doesn't have to have a markup because you're getting it directly from the source. Like the Chinese kids make it and then they just sent it out to you.
Yeah, still got their fingerprints on it.
Yep.
Oh
Yeah.
wow!
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys, that's gonna do
Some
it
of
for
them still
this.
got blood on them.
Yeah.
You gotta pay extra
Blood
for that.
and sweat.
But no, thank you all so much for tuning in. That's going to do it for this episode of the Red Moon Podcast. We appreciate all the love and the support, and that's why we're asking you, yes, to like, share, subscribe
Please like us.
on all of our social media accounts right there at the bottom of your screen. That's right. Red Moon Book on Facebook, Red Moon Tweet on Twitter, or is it X now?
X.
Red Moon Pics on Instagram, and of course, search for Red Moon Productions on YouTube or on Rumble. We're also on there as well. And you can also reach out to us that old-fashioned way. Keith, you do it the best.
RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com.
That was just beautiful, Keith.
Yep.
Every time it gets me. Oh.
It's working! It's working!
Is he going to get the other one in the next 2 seconds?
I could.
before
I mean, I
we haven't had it this episode. You always try every episode. You don't
does it
use
have to
any of
be
the
everyone?
others. None of the others that you all complained about forever to get. You just use those two.
because those are the two I love most.
Gosh,
I love them. They're so terrible. They're the perfect kind of so bad it's good.
Don't forget next week.
That's what I want. I want that for Christmas, Keith.
There it is.
I like that.
He had to find it. He had to tell you.
I want it for
Show
Christmas.
it. Hold on. It's a Korok
It's a
seed,
Korok.
and it's wood.
It's not
That
a
ain't
seed.
wood.
That's
That is
Korok. It
not
looks like wood to me.
That's
It says
freaking plastic.
Family love. Listen to the description. Hold on a second. One Piece. New Forest Witcher Wooden Korogu. The Legend of Zelda.
Well,
I'm not done yet.
call it by its
I'm
actual
not done
name.
yet. Korogu, the Legend of Zelda family love statue, wooden sculpture, funny creative.
It's even in broken English.
You know
Yes.
what? You know what I think that is though, because I mean, me and Neil used to laugh at like old like.
It's like hashtags.
Well,
it's just like put a bunch of
Well, not just
buzzwords
that.
in there.
It's where like
to
you
get people
take
to look for
you
it.
take something in English and then they'll translate it into Chinese and then they translate it back into English and it's gibberish because there's movies that you can download like Star Wars:
Hey.
Revenge of the Sith was one that we used to laugh
The
about
review
because
it says I love weird stuff that Temu delivers.
Yeah.
This one is really good quality, solid, weighty wood. I love it.
But the Revenge of the Sith scene where like Vader finds out Padme died or he was lying or whatever, and he goes no, and it's really bad. Like they did that with that. They translated it into Chinese and then back, and it was hilarious because he goes me not want, and I'm just like oh.
But no, well, it's funny because
that I would
hold on, show
I
it.
want those.
Show it.
So the
I would put
next-
those out in the garden.
This was a suggestion after looking at the wooden Korok.
What the?
I want those in the garden.
if you can see
It's
it.
Tupac and Biggie, isn't it? yeah.
Little old wooden statues. One Piece hip hop legend commemorative statue resin crafts ornament.
Hip hop legends.
Hip hop legend.
I would
Hip-hop
buy
legends.
those and put those in like the garden as lawn
$6,
gnomes.
man.
I would buy
Worth every
those.
penny.
Be like,
I want-
is that Tupac in your garden? It's like, yeah.
I would buy those if it had every member of like the Fast and Furious crew.
I guarantee you
that'd be
it's-
amazing.
That would
something
be
on here.
legit. Just to
like-
be like,
be
why
like-
do you have that?
because they're my family.
Or if it was Solid Snake in the gang, oh heck yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I would
Yep.
get that. But no,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'll check it out. I'm interested now just because y'all got good deals on there.
Yep.
If there's something that just I'm like, oh, I gotta have it.
You got to dig, man.
dig,
You gotta
but
through
I'll
the
try
stuff.
something.
Know what you're looking for before you get on there.
I'll go down a rabbit hole. I'll just find all sorts of stuff.
Brandon, like, we'll come in here and he'll have his house full of like
It was
teeny
I
boxes.
just, it was $100
like, I
all of it.
stop.
Yeah.
I just
It's
kept
like
buying.
those people that's like just because it's on sale, they buy 10 of it.
The problem with that site and Wish and other things like that is once you search for something, it will suggest things that it thinks kind of go along with that.
Yeah.
And so, like when I had Wish.com, which I deleted that because I was like,
Nothing
that's
but garbage.
yeah,
came
that was
from
that
Wish.
was terrible. But I was looking at shoes on there. I was trying to find a pair of like the Hey Dude things, but I didn't want to pay Hey Dude prices, and I'm gonna wear them for cutting grass. So I was like, I'll pay $15 for a pair of fake Hey Dudes. You get on there and look at shoes, and you get all these shoes. Then you get slippers. Then you get rubber feet. Like then you get like silicone fake feet. Yes, like it's like it goes from shoes
just goes
to
down-
it starts
It's like
suggesting weird stuff that go along with
AI-generated
it.
Yeah.
suggestions.
Yeah, well, I
And it
think it's
just
trying
gets,
to
like, more
suggest the
bizarre.
stuff that they can't sell.
Yeah.
So they just throws
So
it
if you bought
in
some
there.
shoes, would you like to put some rubber feet,
Feet
in them?
in there, yeah.
Do you want to be
So
a
I thought
hobbit?
about getting them for my brother-in-law and just sending them to
That'd be
him.
great.
That would
It's
actually
like I'm gonna
be
get his pair of silicone
That'd be
feet,
hilarious.
send them in
They
the
show
mail.
up on his doorstep.
Put them in
Yeah.
the mail. Don't tell him what it is. He opens the box
Yes.
and there's just shoes.
What?
There's just
Just
feet in there.
Just nasty.
It'd be funny
looking
because
feet.
I could see Neil just being like, well, they're really comfortable though, and I do wear them.
Yeah.
It's like I like these.
I don't.
How
Can
do
you wear the rubber
them?
feet? Yeah,
No, they're
just
like
rubber feet.
they're
Yeah.
fake modeling feet.
They're just rubber feet. Yeah.
Like you
You don't even
practicing.
wear 'em?
No, you practice like painting the toenails on them. It's like the Chinese women
That's
practice
bizarre.
on
They're
them.
just rubber.
Wow.
Yeah,
They're just silicone feet.
That's
Yeah.
very weird.
But that came up, and then it's like my dad tells me all the time about like the stuff that comes up when he looks for things.
see, I would figure too. Even some of the ratings on there have got to be fake. They've got to be like
Some of the
AI
reviews
generated.
probably are.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
I
And
look
just
at
like,
reviews.
great
on-
product. I mean,
if it's
Amazon
if
does
the
same
review
thing.
is in English, then I trust it. If the review says great wooden Korogu statue from Zelda family, then I know it's fake.
Who knows? Maybe it's somebody really
like
stacking and broken
Sean mentioned, I actually I'll go to like Reddit and see if anybody else.
Yeah,
has bought,
yeah,
like,
you
'cause
can
I did that with the
look 'em up,
Joy-Con,
yeah.
and they were like, I bought some Joy-Con off there.
That's
and they were
what I would
yeah,
probably
yeah.
do. I'd
Yeah.
research it a little further if I was really going to
It's
pull
like
the trigger.
maybe not trust the reviews on their website, but if a bunch of people on Reddit are saying, no, I bought it and it was legit, I'm like, okay.
Alrighty, guys. That reaches
Yeah.
the end of our show. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Until next time, I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host.
Sean Sebastian.
And
I was looking for bigger boat. I didn't see it.
bigger. Oh, the button. I was like, what is he talking about? Is it on Temu?
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.